Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. I have a special guest for us today who's written a wonderful book that we'd like to share with you. This is Dr. Bob Underwood. He's the Chief Medical Officer of San Juan Regional in New Mexico. Hi, Bob.
Hey, how are you doing, Elsie?
Thanks for waking up so bright and early for me.
It's good to be here.
So, Bob, you've written this amazing book, and I've read so many leadership books. I've done an executive master's in healthcare leadership. I seek out books all the time, and your book really, it really struck out. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I got to reach out to him, because the book is very different in that it kind of takes you through a story of a physician. Can you tell us how you came up with that, and tell us a little bit about the storyline to share with everybody?
Sure, absolutely. So I come from the military, and there's a lot of military leadership that's built into this. And part of why it's this way is I had a commander back in the day, years ago, who said, we learn our technical skills from our training, but we learn wisdom from stories. And so I think that was kind of important in bringing this forward. And I think it's proven that if you're giving talks, that people remember more of what you say and more about the lesson if it's associated with a story that's memorable. And so that was really my intent, was to bring as an allegory, to bring this skill set forward as a story so that you could see it in action.
Can you show us the book? Do you have it on you?
Sure. Yep, I've got it right back here.
Mine is downstairs.
Yep. So there it is. That's the
Exactly.
Leader Compass for medical professionals.
Okay, and take us through the storyline, because I was fascinated with basically a young medical director going through his journey,
Right.
Little struggles and success and failures of being a leader.
Sure.
That's great.
So yeah, so the basic storyline is that this physician is made the medical director of the Joint Service Line for his organization. It's part of a larger, so it's one hospital within a system. And so this physician is asked to move into this role after the old medical director had left under less than favorable circumstances. For a while, they tried to run it without having a medical director at all. That didn't work out. And so the chief medical officer of the hospital asked this doctor if he would be the medical director. So it turns out that he's moving into this role, but is filled with a little bit of trepidation because he doesn't know a lot about leadership. And so it turns out that one of his patients is needing a hip replacement because he jumped out of too many perfectly good airplanes, as we like to say in the military. And so in that interaction, the physician is sharing with the patient the circumstance, and they end up developing kind of this mentor-mentee relationship where this retired Army officer starts helping kind of coach him along through different leadership skills.
Okay, that's so good. And basically he's going to him for advice and applying kind of what he's being taught as well.
Right, different leadership principles of, what are SMART goals? Have you gotten to know what motivates the team that you're trying to lead? Have you gotten to know what their personal issues are that may influence how they do their job or not do their job? In the end, we look at that as transformational leadership, where it's sort of inspirational, but we're all transformed in that process.
That is so good. Now, for somebody who's starting off in leadership, I mean, is that what this book is for? Is it for people who don't know anything at all, or is it for people who already are in leadership and are trying to improve their skills?
I would say that it would be applicable in both circumstances. That it's written about a provider who is moving into that role for the first time, and it's kind of starting off with some of the basics. But one of the things that I believe firmly is that any leader can always learn more about leadership. And we all have to have a toolbox so that we have an ability to draw from that under various circumstances that we're called into leadership roles. I'm an emergency physician. So sometimes I run codes in the emergency department. That leadership skill set is different than implementing an electronic medical record, which was one of my first leadership roles when I was moving from purely clinical work into more administrative. I was the chief medical informatics officer. And so implementing an electronic medical record is a different leadership skill set than running a code, for example.
Can you just repeat that one more time? There was a little bit of a static about
Sure.
that you were a CMIO.
Yeah,
And
I was a CMIO, which was one of my first leadership roles, moving out of purely clinical work into
right.
administrative work. And so the leadership skill set for implementing an electronic medical record is very different than what you would have for running a code, yet they're both leadership roles.
Right. Having an adaptive leadership style is key. And
Yeah,
people,
it's
I mean,
huge.
who would know, like coming out of medical school and residency, that you can adapt.
Exactly. And that's the other thing in healthcare is that, medical school teaches us amazingly complex, in-depth clinical skill set. Um, but we learn to gauge our success one patient at a time. The person who's ultimately responsible for the outcome of this patient is me because I am the doctor. I mean, that's how we look at life. And I would say that medical training, medical school and residency is almost really more of an indoctrination into that mindset. And so we almost have to unlearn some of that to become good leaders
So
in
true.
healthcare. And healthcare, with the way that it's going, we look at healthcare in terms of its cost trend being unsustainable as it's increasing the cost faster than the gross domestic product. And we have to maintain and continue to improve the quality of care that we provide in healthcare organizations. And so physicians are the ones who understand that component more than other people. Primarily, there's lots of really good leaders in healthcare, but the clinicians have a very unique mindset around the patient care. And so we are being asked now to step into more and more complex leadership roles. And we haven't been given that skill set in our training, going through medical school and going through residency. And so I think that there's a need and a great desire among providers to get out there and learn those skill sets. Now, I keep saying physicians because I think that it is a unique group, but I would say that there's similar stories behind respiratory therapists, nurses, people who come from a clinical background trying to learn that leadership skill set.
Right. And your book is about a physician example, but
right.
But it could apply to anyone in the healthcare professional, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I really think that it is applicable. And there's a number of people who have bought the book who are not doctors, but they still get the lessons from it because the lessons of leadership are agnostic to role and really agnostic to industry.
Right, right. Love that. Now, towards the end of the book, and I think this kind of ties into the title of your book, there was a whole statement, a way to write your philosophy personally and come up with your values. I love that. And I think that is the reason why, and I'm so grateful for you to join my team in Lead Physician, because I think that's the foundation of how we can go forward as a leader. Can you tell us about how you came up with this and what it's about, the statement?
Sure. And so as the story develops, that's really what the mentor in the story gets this provider to do, this medical director to do, and that's to write his own personal leadership philosophy. And it's also part of the classes that I teach. And so essentially what it is it's an exploration of what really are your values and how do you apply those values to developing your own leadership philosophy. There's another course that I teach, and it starts with values, and I'll go forward and then I'll go backwards so that you can see how it fits together. So values are really the foundation of what you do and why you do it. Values in action become virtues, and repeated virtuous behavior becomes your character, and character builds trust. Without trust, you can't have leadership. So let's look at it the other way around. We're talking about leadership. In order to have strong leadership, the people that you lead have to trust you. and they're going to trust you because you have shown them what your character is. Your character is based off of virtues, which all started with what were your basic values. And that's really what this does, is you build this leadership philosophy, which starts with your values. And from your values, you define what you can expect of me as your leader or as a leader. And then you turn it around and say, and based on those values too, this is what I expect of my team or the people that I'm leading, regardless of what that circumstance is. And so I have a written leadership philosophy. I think I sent it to you, and I've shared it with a number of people. But that's really where the book goes, is developing that personal leadership philosophy for this medical director.
Right. I mean, it's sometimes on the outside, you might think, oh, well, that's no big deal. Why do I have to even write it down? But it's amazing how much we don't even have that organized in our mind, in our thoughts of where we start with. We have to understand our values, and we talk about core values all the time in leadership, but actually writing it down, actually thinking about what that is, and then making it transparent to the people you're serving, whether they're above you or below you, is paramount, I think, in your ability to communicate better and to have collaboration and work through whatever that you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. And, it forms a level of accountability for yourself, because you take this, and like you said, we're all servant leaders, and we serve our organizations and we serve the people that are around us. And I share this leadership philosophy with the people that I report to, my immediate peers. So the other people that are on my senior leadership team all have a copy of my leadership philosophy. I have a copy of my bosses, the CEO of the hospital, but everybody in my division has a copy of my leadership philosophy. And I tell them, hold me accountable for that. And every once in a while, we'll be in a meeting and say, you have my leadership philosophy. Are there any points of that I am not living up to that I said I would do? And so I'll go around, and people will be, I have the quality department. So I've got abstractors that work on computers, pulling data out of electronic medical records. And my leadership philosophy is thumbtacked to their cubicle wall.
Yep. And when it comes to difficult conversations and conflict, and you have your values already deep seated in yourself, and everybody knows what it is, it makes it so much easier, I think, to lead in those circumstances.
Foundational.
And Bob, can you just tell everybody how they can find this book?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's available on Amazon. So just go to Amazon and search for The Leader's Compass for Medical Professionals, and it will come up that way. Also, I worked with Dennis Haley. He's my co-author. And so Dennis has a site called Academy Leadership. And if you go to academyleadership.com, you can also find their resources. There's books. You can open that up. There's a number of books that they have available. You can click on the image of my book, and it'll also take you to the Amazon site.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much. This is awesome. Yeah. I think everyone should get this book. Thank you for sharing this. And please, there's a few spots left, and I would love for you to join this team. And it's, actually, I've given more than 14 days of money back guarantee time for you to just try it out. So click on the link below and go check it out, and set up a time with me, and we could just talk about to see what your circumstances are and see if this would be a good fit for you. Anyways, thank you so much, Bob. I look forward to having you part of the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. All
right. Have a great weekend, everybody.